Well, welcome everybody today to the information session for the Powercor Geelong Business Excellence Awards. The Geelong Chamber of Commerce is delighted to have you all here today, and we're also delighted to be hosting and coordinating the Business Awards for the second year running. This morning you're going to hear from our judges, and I'd like to introduce Dan Simmons and Simon Flowers, who are going to be presenting today and going to be telling you a little bit about the awards and the process. In front of you, you've got some information. You have an information booklet, and you also have judges' tips and information about the information sessions as well. So have a great time. We look forward to getting your entries in, and we wish you well with the awards and hope this is your year to shine.
Thank you, Bernadette, and welcome everybody. When these series of workshops were first started, probably about 8 or so years ago, we used to call them How to Win sessions. And certainly that's one of our intent here today, to provide you with a framework of how to prepare your entry, submit it to the judges, go through the judges' visits to your business to put it in the best place to win one of our awards, and hopefully one of you might actually be the winner of the outright award for 2014. It is appropriate that in starting this formal presentation we do acknowledge a bit about the history of the awards. The awards are now in their 29th year. They were started by a business called The Communicators, which was a public relations firm in Geelong, and they ran it for 27 years until the Geelong Chamber of Commerce commenced running them in 2013. And the Chamber, in company with the judges, have really worked hard in the last 18 months to continue to refocus the awards and to make them easier to enter and to provide more information to potential entrants about how they can actually frame their entry to give them the best chance of winning. And one of the really positive reasons why potential entrants should be visiting one of these briefing sessions this year is the changes that the judging panel have made to the entry process and to the categories that we seek you to answer. All of the information in relation to that is contained in the entry guidelines which you've got before you today, and basically we will be working through a lot of the material in there but providing much greater information. Also, you've got in front of you two or one document, I haven't checked, two. One of which is a little bit about what I'm going through now, a bit of the history, and the other one, which starts off with business summary, is really these tips that we're going to be giving, or we are giving to all potential entrants, and face-to-face through the workshops about how to win, or how to complete your entry. All of this information either is now or will very shortly be on the website, and as we've said in a little bit of an introduction before we started filming, this actual session is going to be placed on YouTube so that people who can't attend one of the briefing workshops get the opportunity to go through the process with Simon and with me. It's also very important that the awards acknowledge their sponsors and other business partners. For example, today's Geelong Independent has a wraparound about the awards, and following the launch of the awards last night at the Chamber After 5 function. But also, I think the radio stations and the advertiser will continue to play a role in promoting the awards through the media. There will be very strong social media presence in promoting the awards and the entrants post the awards function, which this year is on Thursday the 17th of July. But the naming rights sponsor, and it's really important that we acknowledge this, is Powercor. Powercor is energising local business by supporting these awards. We had an explanation last night at the Chamber After 5 of what exactly Powercor does, and I must admit I didn't really know, but they are responsible for delivery of electricity throughout Melbourne and Central and Western Victoria. And there's a range of business awards throughout the state, and I think Powercor are involved in sponsoring all but 2 of them. And for example, their naming rights sponsor in Warrnambool, they are category sponsors in Ballarat, etc. So Powercor really sees this as one of their primary promotional tools for their business throughout Victoria, and I couldn't think of a better way for them to do that than actually supporting these awards. Now, what do the judges say about entering? We say that the entry process allows you to review and assess your business procedures and operations. In effect, it's a health check for your business. If you engage your staff, it's very important for them because they get to understand what the business is about. The end aim, of course, is to win, and we hope that you can learn enough from us here today to be able to put you in a position to be able to win an award. Now, these info sessions are free. Entry is free. You get, for that, the assistance from the judges, you get visits from us, you get critiques from us, all of which you will find, we hope, beneficial to your business. These info sessions assist you in preparing an entry that gives you the best chance of winning. We also find that some people aren't really comfortable with the entry process, particularly the judges' visit, and by interfacing with the judges at meetings such as this, we hope that you will find that in fact the visit is easier for you. And of course that's also made easier because we run presentation skills workshops after you've had the time to submit your written entry. Bunnings support the running of these presentation skills workshop, and they will tell you how to actually present to the judges on their visit. We would urge you to use this opportunity to jot down any points that you might think of on the form. You get to take away the material in front of you. Jot down any points you might think are relevant to your business during the course of the session. Please, we're happy to take any questions. We are trying to work to a time limit today to try and get this session completed within an hour with questions at the end. But if there's something urgent that you think is relevant, or the judges are missing something from your experience, please feel free to answer. Simon and I will probably repeat the question for the purposes of the microphone, so if you also could introduce yourself if you do ask a question so we know what's going on. So over to Simon, and we'll start with what entering's all about.
Okay, so essentially the process overview of the awards is it's in two parts. The first part is a written entry, which is a $2,500 word limit. And the second part is actually a site visit. So I'm going to go through now the written entry part, and then Dan's going to follow with the site visit part. So essentially the business, to be able to enter, must complete the following 5 core criteria. And the dates that were important are from 1 April to 31 March. So we're still not to the end of the actual award period. So you have to do the 5 core criteria, and then the second part is if you want to enter any of your optional questions, being sustainable business or health promoting workplaces, then you have to answer those as well. So the entries are judged by the 11, so the written entries are judged by the 11 judges, and then an average score is provided, and that's your first mark. You also be judged on the optional questions if you enter those optional categories. When you do your entry, the $2,500 words, see I'm counting, the 2,500 words is a tight word limit when you answer the questions, the core criteria. So make sure that you don't include testimonials, don't put your business plans in, don't put your strategic plans in. There's a lot of words that the judges need to read in a short period of time. So there's a few new categories this year. So what I propose to do is to go through those categories. So we have the commercial services categories, and those categories are home-based micro to small, 1 to 12 employees, which also includes government and not-for-profit. And we've actually split the commercial services into medium and large this year. So 13 to 35 employees, or 36 and above. We have the retail category, the family business second generation or more category, the health and wellbeing category, hospitality and tourism category, trades and services, and manufacturing, export and construction has been merged into one category this year. Emerging business under 3 years, human resources and customer service. Those two categories are automatic entries that the judges believe that you should go into. Sustainable business is that optional category that you have to write the extra 500 words for. Same with health promoting workplaces, that's an optional entry, again another 500 words. We have home-based and micro business, 1 to 3 employees, small 4 to 12 employees, medium 13 to 35 employees, large 36 or more employees, which also includes franchises, best first year entry, and then some new categories that are community contribution, corporate social responsibility, innovation are all automatic entries that the judges can put you into. And obviously the final one, which is what everyone wants to win, is Business of the Year. So it can be a bit daunting with the number of categories, but to give you an example of what a business might enter, so we've asked Deb and Hugh at Truffle Duck, and they said it's fine for us to use them as an example. So if we know Truffle Duck, they can definitely enter the medium business. They can definitely enter the hospitality and tourism business awards. They can enter the commercial services medium award. They can also possibly enter the retail award with the waterfront kitchen now. They could possibly enter the best first year if it was the first year into the awards, and if they're under 3 years in business, they could enter the emerging business award. Now, there's some categories this year that the judges will automatically put you in if they deem fit. So, and those categories are the Innovation Award, the Community Contribution Award, the Corporate Social Responsibility Award, Customer Service, and Human Resources. Now, if they decided that they wanted to do the 2 optional questions, so they could then potentially go into the Sustainable Business Award and the Health Promoting Workplace, and everyone goes in the Business of the Year award. I'll hand back to Dan for the site visit.
Thanks, Simon. The site visit is one of the issues that we really try to stress the importance of in the awards process. A minimum of 2 judges visit every entry. We say a minimum of 2 because sometimes, if you're lucky, like Leopold Swim School, you get 3, is that right? And that 3rd person is me, and Bespoke Architects got me as well, didn't they, last year? And why we do that is I go around and mark with each of the judging panels, and I do that as a means of communication between the various groups, because they are fixed groups that go together, and they do not just do just retail or just commercial services. We do mix up the groups that the judging groups, the businesses that judging groups go to visit. But by doing that, I can make sure that we're getting consistency in the marking process. People are seeing businesses the same way, are marking them the same way. I provide feedback about how the entrants are going and how the whole process is going. And we try to do that to give some inherent consistency, in effect like a spot check and audit across the judging process to make sure that everybody is being treated the same way through the visit process. There's absolutely no conclusion or anything to be drawn by the fact that I might be one of the judges that actually comes and visits you. What we ask you to do is this: address the 5 criteria in the order they are in the entry form and as you have entered them. It makes it much easier for us. We are in effect remarking each of those 5 criteria, and what we do is that the judges submit a mark back into the process, and that is averaged with the mark on your written score, and that gives a total score which is then fed into the system and helps determine who our winners of the categories or the outright award may be. So it's important that to start off with, you substantiate what you have said in your written entry. It is also important that you then add anything extra. Simon's already said, for example, don't give us marketing material or anything like that you might want to include unless it's within your word count. But, for example, would not be uncommon for businesses to provide, have their website up and running when we come to a visit. Because we don't look at the websites. Don't give us any material that we're to take away and read. We don't do that. We judge the business how we see it. If you have business plans, if you have policies and procedures, occupational health and safety, for example, all of those types of things, have them there for us to inspect. Show us some of your marketing collateral. And that's how you use the visit. Don't forget, you also only have that time to also address any of the 2 extension criteria that we've spoken about that is included within the 1.5 hours we allow for the visit. Judges are becoming increasingly concerned about the focus and importance that some businesses place on giving us a tour. Any judge will assure you that there are some businesses that, put it colloquially, stuff this up. They spend far too much time showing us around their business premises than telling us about the business. We are not there to inspect your workplace. We are there to hear about your business. So it is a strong recommendation from the judging panel that, yes, we're very happy to look at premises, but don't spend more than 15 minutes on it. Because the judges have read about your business, they are there to want to find out more about your business, the business. A tour doesn't let us sit down, ask questions with you and have a dialogue with you about your business. It may be that there's some businesses out there that can in fact combine the two, a tour with providing that information, but they're fairly rare. And there are some very big businesses in Geelong who would call themselves very successful, very profitable, highly acknowledged in the community, who have not succeeded in these awards because they've got this wrong. We've got some businesses, for example, have spent up to 50 minutes of the hour and 20 or something like that that we like to spend giving us a tour, and that leaves them 30 minutes to tell us about their business. So unless you can integrate the two, we would strongly advocate to you that you keep a very close mind on that time limit. What the judge is looking at is, have you substantiated your written entry, or if you've got improvements, and you use your time at the visit to provide us that extra information that means we can remark you up, which gives you a greater chance of winning. We do not accept additional material to take away, as I've said. What we try to do is allow it to be your session, and that is we try to run it with as little interference as possible, but we understand that people might be nervous, so the judges are prepared to ask you some questions to get along with the flow. But you must also understand that the judges will have some questions they want to ask you. So if you fill up an hour and a half, again, you are diminishing your chances of succeeding in these awards because we want to find out some information and you haven't left us time. Because I know this sounds rude, but we do leave after an hour and a half. Because in fact it's rude for you to keep us there for longer than that, because we will have either, if it's the end of the day, we'll have visited 3 other businesses during that day, or if it's the start of the day, we've got another business to get to. And it's important that you adhere, please, to that 1.5 hour time limit. The other thing we'd say about the site visits, just remember what I've already said about the workshops we will be running. Please look to book into them because you will find them beneficial.
Okay, thanks Dan. Now what we're going to go through is the preparation tips for the written entry. Obviously Dan has talked previously about the Bunnings presentation skills workshops, which will give you the tips for your presentation skills. So essentially the written entry is, as Dan said, please address the criteria 1 to 5 in the order, written entry and on the site visit. Remember that all the categories carry the same weight, so they're all marked exactly the same way with the same level of marks. So don't neglect one over another. What we've found in previous years is that people do really well for the first 3 or 4 core criteria and then run out of word limits and leave the last one with not much in it. You need to make sure that you cover off all 5 as much as possible. The best way I can say to do that is by jotting down dot points for each core criteria, and then write your submission, and then if you need to drop out some, drop them out from the bottom. So start from the most important core criteria for each question, and then list them down. You can always add the ones that you drop off later on at the site visit. So make sure that you brainstorm with your family and friends and colleagues to make sure that you're picking up all the issues or the points that you need to raise to give you the best chance. If you make a point, make it clear to the judges. You know, we do customer surveys, Okay, that's fine. What are your results? How often do you do them? We want just more than statements. We want confirmation of what you actually do. You can use colour graphs in your submission, remembering that colour graphs don't actually count towards word limit. So the more graphs you put in, it tells a story, but it doesn't actually spend your 2,500 words. So if you're using graphs, make sure there's actually something on the indexes, because what we're trying to find out is what you're trying to show. So if there's nothing there, we don't know what the graph's talking about. It makes it a bit hard for us to actually understand what it's in there for. Also note that the judges, apart from Dan, get grey copies. So make sure that your graphs have some sort of change to it if you're trying to compare bar graphs and things. Avoid meaningless terms. So open door policy, what does that actually mean for your business? Avoid jargon, avoid acronyms. There was one business a couple of years ago that I still don't understand what they do, because they use jargon all the way through the written entry, and I didn't see them on the site visit, but I still don't know what they actually do. Have your entry reviewed by staff or someone external from your business. Use the mentor system that the Geelong Chamber of Commerce provide. So they've got 3 or 4 mentors that can help you in your written submission, and provide 12 hard copies to the chamber prior to the dates of 5th of May.
The awards dinner is on July the 17th, and at that dinner we announce our finalists and the winners of the awards. We would strongly urge, if you do go to the trouble of entering, and we hope you all do, to actually come to the awards ceremony. 1, it's the only way you can actually collect the award, but 2, you get the opportunity to network and showcase your business to all of the other entrants there, and generally speaking we have 500 people there. It is a very big night, and it is a very important event on the Geelong business calendar. Our winners, of course, are publicised in a lift-out feature in the Advertiser. They're on the website, Facebook page, Twitter and Instagram, and the Geelong Chamber website. I don't know if any of you yet are following the awards on Facebook or looking at it through the website, but certainly the information has already started to come out in relation to them. You also get written feedback from the entries, from the judges, post the awards event. So why do you enter? As I said at the start, this whole process is free. You get the chance to internally self-assess, but you also receive the assessment from the judges. Where you involve your team, it can be perform a very important team bonding exercise. You get the ability to showcase your staff and your business to the business community, and you receive acknowledgement for that. Those of you who have entered before, or if you haven't, accept the assurances from the judging panel that where employees are involved in the process, the constant feedback we get is the benefit that it's provided to the organisation, whether or not they win, because everybody gets involved. It really helps build up the team. So, what do we say? For each criteria, tell us 3 things. What you do, why you do it, or who you do it for, and thirdly, what happens as a result. In other words, as Simon said, don't just tell us about doing customer surveys, tell us what it means. Just don't tell us you've got an open door policy, tell us what it means. And being the lawyer, just one final thing in conclusion, just remember what we're going through today are no more than tips. What we're trying to do as a judging panel is give to potential entrants a much broader sample of what we look for when we're marking an entry, but they are not exhaustive. There will be things that you do in your business that aren't included in any of these lists that I'm sure are fantastic. Don't tell us about those things. Don't leave them out, because to a certain extent they may be the things that actually allow you to win an award. So what we're going to do now is run through the actual criteria and the entry process. And in doing this, we'll be addressing it in headings, and the headings are all in the middle pages of the entry booklet in front of you. so that if you go, for example, to business achievements, which is core criteria number 1, you'll see what goals, innovations or milestones has your business achieved in the last 3 years and describe the environmental practices. We will be going through those dot points with you now, and if you in fact look at the document in front of you, you will see that this document is framed in exactly the same way. So I'll pass back to Simon to in fact start us through that process.
Okay, thanks Dan. So we're now heading towards the judges' tips for the criteria. But first we need to go through the business summary. So the business summary doesn't provide you with any points or any marks, but it's still very important from a judge's point of view and also from your point of view. You've got 500 words to provide us with a business summary of your business. Okay, this is the section that sets the scene for the judges. Okay. So most of the judges, as Dan said, we won't be looking at your website. So we may not know your business. So it's your chance to tell us what you guys do. So as Dan said, we describe the operations and general background of your business, along with an overview of your products and services. Okay. Now what we've done differently this year is we've also put the vision into this section. So last year we had a separate section or separate criteria that talked about vision. This year we've put the vision of the business within the business summary. So essentially assume that the judges do not know your business. Okay. Explain what your vision is for your business and for your employees. What is your point of difference compared to your competitors? Explain what you do and how you do it. Or I can say in relation to your vision should jump off the page to the judges. You know, this is where your passion of your business should come out. As Dan said, we will not be looking at your website. If you want to provide the website, you do that at the site visit. The last thing I'll say is that Dan will now go through the first couple of the core criteria. As I said at the start, the written entry 2,500 words, make sure you don't go over it. The businesses who exceed the 2,500 words by more than 10% will be penalised at the judge's discretion. Okay.
And for example, last year we had one that got to 3,700. And I can tell you, when you're trying to mark 60 plus entries and you only have limited time because all of the judges are in business, nothing turns the judges off more than those additional words, because you actually do get the vibe of how many words are within an entry, and you'll be amazed at how many entries have 2,467 when we allow 2,500 words, and you get the feel, particularly when you it's that heavy of an entry, but so do bear that in mind. Also please bear in mind that we have a lot of businesses of different sizes enter. The judges understand that, so that a lot of what we're about to talk about going through these criteria, you might say if you're a micro business, well, how does that apply to me? And let me give you an example. When we get onto the environmental practices, which we're about to talk about as part of this business achievements criteria 1, you might as a micro business be completely environmentally conscious. You might be a paper-free office, you might have recycling of the packaging that comes into you, you might have the green energy supplied to you, you might have good OH&S practices in that you've got screensavers on your computer, you've got ergonomically designed chairs to sit on, etc. Now that in effect, as a small business or a micro business, which is less than 3 employees, is in fact probably much better than a big 1,000 employee business might be able to achieve in their business. The judges understand that. And we make allowances is the wrong word, because in effect if a micro business did that, it would be a reverse allowance. We would give extra marks. We have understanding in the judging process that not all businesses come to the entry process with the same size, the same resources, etc. And another example relates to marketing. If Coles enter and tell us this is what we market and do, well, we have to understand that they have a certain percentage, but a micro business might spend much more of their income on corporate social responsibility, on marketing, etc. And we make allowances for that happening. So please bear that in mind. The other thing to bear in mind in preparing your entry is there will be what you see as duplications in what you want to tell us. So, for example, something that you do in HR may lead on to customer service. One of your customer service things may be, we have the best trained staff and they're trained to deal with things in such and such a way. But you say, oh, I've already dealt with that in my HR because I've talked about the training that we provide our staff so they can provide better customer service. What we would ask you is don't repeat the words in each criteria. We get it, we'll pick it up. Just make a reference back. Just make a dot point reference back to the earlier criteria and say, I have, or we have, or the business has already addressed the issue in criteria 2 or 3 or whatever the numbers are. But Simon also mentioned about businesses that get to the end and run out of word space. We also sometimes feel that businesses get to the end and because they hit the wall, they've got the stitch in effect because they've actually addressed a lot of the things by the time they get to the last criteria in the earlier criteria. The little tip I've just given you, in fact, will help spread it out a little bit across the criteria. But also bear in mind the judges do understand that. It's part of the judging process to be able to pick up where the various nuances lie, because we in fact might see something that you have under customer service back in HR as well and increase your mark in HR accordingly. So there's just those little tips. The other thing that we've tried to do in the reordering of the 5 criteria we're going to go through is in fact to enable you to stage your submissions more evenly throughout the submission. And that's why, for example, business performance is last. Those of you who have entered before, I think it used to be criteria number 3. And so it came in the middle and then the others came after it, so that by the reordering and reallocating where we want things to be written, we've tried to make it easier for people to keep up a flow so you don't get anticlimactically to the end and find that you don't have anything to say. So the 5 criteria in order are business achievements, marketing, customer service, people and culture, and business performance. Business achievements and business performance used to be together, and the judges just felt that that was too big a criteria. So what we did, as Simon's already said, we took vision out of a criteria and put it up into the introduction, and we've increased the word limit. That used to be 250 words, that's now 500 words to enable you the ability to address that issue. And what we're saying in business achievements is that this isn't necessarily about facts and figures and your systems and processes from a financial point of view. We're looking for things that you've actually done. So we give some examples there of innovation, awards you might have won, organisational restructures. In other words, it's not just about financial, it's actually developments. Changes to costs and expenses. You've analysed all your costs and expenses, you've gone to a new supplier. Revenue generation, bit of an overlap there. Capital expenditure, financial achievements, using the graphs as Simon's already said. How do you measure against industry competition? Whether you benchmark against other things. Whether you've invested in new products or acquired another business. Whether you've refreshed your brand. Whether you've got a new computer system, a new website, etc. It's these types of things that we are looking at as achievements, the non-financial things that your business has done to advance its position. The other thing that we want addressed under business achievements is the environmental practices. Now, as I've already given you an example of a micro business, what it might look like in this part of the awards, but recycling, water energy conservation, solar panels, LCD lights. But you're also assisted here by one of the extension categories being sustainable business, and that's one of that has 500 words in itself. So that even if you don't choose to enter that, there is an extensive list of suggested topics to address there that you can in fact include in your answer to criteria 1 in relation to environmental practices within your business. So they are such things as recycle, reuse, how do you reduce, water management plan, power and lighting initiatives, plant selections if you, for example, got a home office, those types of things, water conservation programs, environmental meetings, environmental committee. And interestingly, these suggestions for a sustainable business, and in fact in relation to health promoting workplace, have been provided by the sponsors of those awards, which in both cases are initiatives of the City of Greater Geelong, and this is what they say is industry recognised best practice in relation to both sustainable business and health promoting workplaces. So that's how we would suggest that you do your business achievements. And what he wants me to say is what goal, innovations or milestones has your business achieved in the past 3 years. In other words, in this criteria, we are not limiting ourselves to just the 1st of April, 31st of March time span. We are saying that these types of things take a long time to win, and you should be able to bring forward to us as part of the entry process those types of things. So, for example, if you've opened up a branch office within the last 3 years, tell us about that, because that's a significant thing that your business may have done. The next thing that I would like to talk about is criteria 2, which is marketing. And this is, can we just go back to our mantra of the what, why and results, and marketing is the absolute prime example of how you can answer for the what, why and the results, because lots of people come to us and say, here's the marketing we do, and our question is why. If you advertise on radio, why do you advertise on radio? If you advertise on radio throughout Ballarat and the Western District, why do you do that? You know, what analysis have you done about where your market sector is placed, where you can draw customers from, the type of services that you're providing there, because you're different, or that you're the only business that covers the region, etc. So, in relation to marketing, what we would say is look at your target market. Make sure you show that you've got a coordinated approach. It's just not scattergun and just ad hoc. If you can show success, tell us what that success was. Tell us what you actually do in the space, what media advertising you do, sponsorships you do, donations you do. I know we're sort of pushing back about the website, but for businesses now, website is a fairly important part of how you market yourselves, and we would certainly suggest that most businesses who do have pride in their website would have it available for us to look at as part of the visit. Online marketing, e-marketing, etc. The other issues you might look at here is how do you budget? You know, do you budget for a certain percentage of your revenue or a certain percentage of your profit to go into marketing? What analysis of the different areas of where you might spend that? All of those types of things. If you do want to include in the written entry an example of your ads, for example, as part of your marketing, be very careful about the word count. It does count towards the word count. That's why I will say try and leave that as much as possible to the visit. Those of you who have had a quick look through the entry criteria or went to the awards launch last night or went through the various categories of the awards when Simon went through them, will see there is now a Corporate Social Responsibility Award, and that is the second area we look at in marketing. We put it in marketing because most businesses now would see their corporate social engagement as being an important part of their marketing / business development function. And don't forget, we are also including in marketing business development. So we'd be looking at who do you support as part of your corporate social responsibility? Are there groups that you're aligned with? Is there social inclusion within your workplace? And this can extend to such things as traineeships, apprenticeships, only purchasing from local suppliers, sponsoring the local football club, and all of those things that you do for your social engagement. And for example, if one of your people sits on a board, tell us about that. Tell us why they sit on the board. Is it encouraged by the business? What benefit does your staff member get from being on the board? I know that sounds a little bit HR, but this is also an important part of corporate social responsibility. And you know, the importance that corporate social responsibility now plays within a business is shown by the fact that we have a separate area for it within the entry program, and we in fact have a separate award for it, and just reinforcing that the actual corporate social responsibility award will be decided by the judges based on the information that we get in this sector from you, both in the written entry and on the visit. the final section that I'm going to cover just before going over to Simon to conclude the 5 criteria is customer service. The customer service is again another sort of the what you do, why you do it, etc., and what are the results. Do you do things that the awards are rife with people that tell us they do mystery shopper programs. Big deal. Sorry for those of you who do mystery shopper programs. Tell us what the results are. Or importantly, if you're a little bit embarrassed about them, tell us what you've done about it. And it would be common for entrants who do have mystery shopper programs or have written feedback requested from customers to actually have them available for inspection by the judges. And we know you're only going to give us the good ones. We accept that, we put that into our process. But if you do get feedback from customers, be proud of it and show it to us at your visits. So, what is your customer service philosophy? How do you do it? What do you expect of your staff? Give us some examples. How do you measure it? Show how you've improved. Tell us about your surveys and feedbacks. How do you cultivate service standards? How do you manage service standards? Do you recognise your staff for excellent customer service? Do you audit it? How do you handle complaints? How do you cultivate customer loyalty? For example, it seems pretty common in the coffee shops now. The customer loyalty programs. I think Baker's Delight run one for bread, etc. It's those types of things. Do you run those types of programs? And importantly, provide us with examples. And importantly, there we've got a separate heading. How do you analyse the effectiveness of your customer service policies and procedures? How do you seek feedback? How do you measure performance? Tell us how you deal with unhappy clients. Provide an example of a time that you've turned an unhappy client into a happy one. But also, more and more businesses are acknowledging positive feedback, and tell us what your process might be through there. So the customer service is, in fact, most businesses now, customer service is what it's all about. And I've just been involved in some discussions this morning with a group that I'm involved in. We talked about this shift in the balance of power, that the customers, through their ability to access products worldwide, their ability to access information about pricing strategies, their ability to actually find out things about the products that you're selling. We live in a different age. The customer really, there's this reverse paradigm really, that the customers now really are king. And so this is an incredibly important part of all businesses, and it is really, in many entries, the make or break of how they are successful within these awards.
Thanks, Dan. So I'll go through the last 2 core criteria. So the first one is people and culture. Now, what we've done with this one from last year is we've changed it from human resources to people and culture, because we see that culture is very big in businesses now, and businesses need to really consider what their culture is for their business. So the first point is describe your human resources policies and procedures and how you promote a positive workplace culture. And if you're a home or business, small business, micro business, what development or training do you undertake to improve your own skills? So what the judges are looking for here is describe your culture. Elaborate on how it's embodied within your organisation. I find that a very hard question, but what you need to come across is what experience does your staff and your customers have in relation to dealing with your business? So how do you present? What is your image, and how do you project it? Describe your management structure. So what we're after here is, what level of authorities do you have? What accountabilities do you have for different levels within your business? And why do they exist? There must be a reason for why they exist. Communication. How does information move around the business? So do you have a fluid up and down line of information? Do you have a fluid across channels? And that can be used through emails, it can be used through weekly newsletters within the firm, it can be toolbox meetings, it can be meetings once a month, We have monthly barbecues, which for all the staff, so all the staff are provided with information on what's actually happening within the business at those barbecues, as well as all the emails and everything else that we send out to them. So what's your recruitment processes? What is your strategy for recruitment? Your strategy might be that you just outsource the whole recruitment process to someone else. It might be that you do it in-house if you have the ability. What is your staff training and development? What is your individual development? What is, do you do performance reviews? So here we're after, do you deal with your employees from a career development point of view? Do you have something in place to deal with them? Do you have a mentoring system within your business? We're also after what sort of training you provide your employees. So is it internal training? Is it external training? Is it mandated? Is it regulatory training? Do you do customer service training? Do you technical training? All that sort of stuff. Also we're after is what do you do from a monitoring of performance point of view for your staff? So do you do appraisals? Do you do reviews? Are they formal, informal? Are they 360? What timing do you have them? Do you have them ad hoc? Do you have them formal, being 6 monthly, yearly? What sort of reviews do you have? The other thing that we're after is also from an employee value proposition point of view. So what I'm saying here is that what staff incentives are there for your employees? What benefits, what rewards are there? Do you have work functions? How do you engage with your staff and reward them? And do you have any staff benefit programs? So here are things like commissions, bonuses, discounted products. Do you have Christmas functions? Do you have 30th of June functions? Do you have major win things? That sort of stuff. Health and well-being. Very important to build a culture within the firm. Our firm provides fruit on a weekly basis to our employees. I know that in the past we've provided gym sessions. Some firms provide health insurance, pay for the health insurance for the employees, work health checks, and employee assistance programs like counselling and that sort of stuff. The next step is the OH&S policies and procedures, the committee meetings, the emergency and fire policies, the bullying, harassment, privacy, all those policies that deal with from an employee point of view. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was position descriptions and employment agreements. So even if you're a micro business with one employee, you should still list what that person is responsible for and what they do. For a larger business, I would expect that you would have position descriptions in place, you would have employment agreements in place. Oh, I'm doing the next one. So the next one, okay, I should get this one right, Dan. Business performance. So what we're after here is not your achievements, because achievements have already been dealt with at question 1. This is more about describing your business planning policies and procedures in relation to budgeting, cash flow, stock, profit, debt management, reinvestment in the business. So what we're after here is not the financial data for your business. What we're here is how do you manage your financial business part of your business. So we don't want to see any confidential data. We don't want to see any profit and losses. We don't want to see any balance sheets. We're not interested in that. What we're after here is how do you manage your financial part of your business. Okay. Do you meet your accountant regularly? Do you have an internal accountant? Dan sees his accountant once a day and talks about his business. Yeah. Our firm, we deal with our financials on a monthly basis at our partner meetings. You know, how do you control your debtors and creditors? You know, do you know your lock-up days? You know, what happens? Do you have a stop work if someone doesn't pay you within 60 days, or what is it? Cash flow. How do you manage the cash flow? Do you do budgeting and cash flow budgets? Stock. Do you do just-in-time stock? or do you have stock takes and make sure that you don't carry any obsolete stock? How do you manage your debt levels? Do you speak to your bank regularly? Reinvestment in business. Do you have a set percentage that you need to reinvest in the business? From a capital expenditure, do you have a CapEx budget and spend that in the business? So what we're after here is essentially what financial KPIs do you have for your business? Do you have ratios? Do you understand what your ratios are? Do you understand what your industry ratios are, and do you compare them? What computer system do you use? Do you use a Quicken, a MyOb, a Xero, or for small businesses it might be as simple as just a normal spreadsheet? The last thing I want to talk about was employee retention. Employee retention is very important in business, because if you lose staff, you most certainly can see a decrease in efficiencies and also a decrease in possible profit. The second part of this question talks about describe and assess and minimise any potential risk to your business. So the risks that we're talking about here are competition risks, market shifts, supply chain losses, staff skill shortages, leasing of the premises. Do you have a lease in place? The property personal register. If you hire and are your terms and conditions compliant with the law? Do you provide or do you receive personal credit card information? What do you do in relation to fraud and theft? Insurances. Do you have insurances both from a people point of view? Dan's partners are all under key person insurance. Do you have personal insurance? If you're a small business, do you have income protection insurance? What is your H&S management? And Dan will now go through the two optional questions.
Thanks, Simon. I touched briefly on these before when we were talking about the environmental practices under Category 1 for business achievements. What we ask you to do is that even though both of these two extension or optional criteria of sustainable business and health promoting workplace are fundamental parts of what you should be addressing in the overall 5 criteria that every business wanting to enter the awards should answer. If you believe that you have exceptional performance in these areas, we would urge you to enter. But to enter, what we do ask you to do is write up to 500 words in each of or on either of these that you choose to enter. You can choose to enter both. Importantly, it is possible for you in entering either of these 2 optional criteria to reference back to information under the 5 general criteria. You can use this to extend what you're saying. You don't have to repeat what is in the main 5 criteria. It is not possible to only enter one of these optional categories. These are only open to people who actually enter the awards by answering all of the 5 compulsory criteria of entry. They are in effect what I've used the words a couple of times in our extension categories. And as I said, these questions have been posed by the sponsors of these 2 awards to ensure that you are addressing up-to-date information. So I don't necessarily propose to go through the environmental issues again, but you will see that there is a whole lot at the start of the process there about describing your plans. What is your business doing to lessen the impact? Describe the processes necessary to achieve your planned outcomes, and describe the benefits which you achieve. Getting back to what is the result of being environmentally or sustainably conscious in your business, and describe any staff training or development. In other words, are your staff coming along for the ride in relation to the environmental practices of your business? So that's the issue in relation to optional question 1. In relation to health promoting workplaces, we frequently get these words employer of choice, etc., etc. This is really about proving that some of the things you do. So that the health, we're really talking about a healthy culture in the workplace. We're looking for things like, is there an employee assistance program in place, for example, whereby employees can access free psychological counselling that some of the bigger businesses tend to have around town? You will see that there's a couple of dot points that have been raised there, describe the policies your workplace has to support a healthy culture, the policies and how do the staff engage with them, describe how you communicate and model this commitment. A lot of businesses, think up these processes, but then don't inculcate it through the workplace, and it's very important to see how do people actually get on board with this. Explain how your workplace provides activity to support health and well-being in one or more of the following areas. Now, if you actually read those areas, you'll find that some of them seem a bit extreme, but in fact, the sponsor of this award does say that these are the internationally recognised by criteria for judging what a healthy workplace may be. In other words, it's those things that people don't necessarily think of that may affect a person's performance in the workplace. And there's their reference to the resources which are committed. It's not just about money, it's about the other resources which might be committed to it. And obviously, getting back to the mantra we've gone throughout here, describe how you assess the benefits that your business and the employees get from these programs that you do run under Health Promoting Workplace. So, almost entirely on time, Simon. We've brought that to conclusion with that presentation. And so thank you for your attention, and we're now over to you for any questions that you might have at all about the process.
I just have a question.
So Marnie, you're from Roderick's?
Sorry, I'm from Roderick's. And with regards to the entry, last year we prepared, because this was our second year last year.
Yep.
And so the first year we did all of our books and we did all of that. And then last year when we actually went to prepare it, we meant to actually enter it online and put the answers in an online thing.
Marnie, the question is the actual entry process between putting it in online and hard copies.
Yes.
It is possible to enter online. The online entry is now much better than it used to be. Once upon a time, when we started off doing this a number of years ago, when technology wasn't quite up with where some of the businesses who wanted to enter are, it just went into the blocks, and it came out just a bit of a mishmash on occasions. The technology is now fine, so yes, you can enter online, but, and this is the big but, we do ask that 12 copies of the entry be submitted as well. You can enter online, it will be logged online. The reason why we ask for 12 copies is this, is that we have a master copy here, and the 11 judges all get a copy to read. The sheer bulk of what would have to happen as part of the process for the Chamber or any awards coordinator to be able to get those copied, make sure they're right, because everyone would have to be checked. We don't want there being any mistakes made in getting the process done and getting it out to the judges on time so that they can actually start the reading process, because we in fact only get in effect 18 days to read all of these entries. It's just too much, so you are asked to produce 12. Simon in fact said that as part of what he said is that I'm the only one to get the colour one. What he means by that is that I get the original, and the original is usually in colour, but a lot of people then just photocopy it off and it comes out through a photocopier in black and white. I would urge you, please, for all judges, think about getting them colour photocopied, because graphs lose all of their benefits if they're just grey or black and white.
That was one of my questions.
Yeah.
Do you get all the benefit of all your diagrams and everything you're getting a black and white copy, or it's being judged from
Yeah.
entry
Yeah.
online? So
Yeah.
anyway, we didn't
Yeah.
end up doing
The judges do not look at it online.
Right,
The judges,
look at the
yeah, and the reason for that is, one, just it's part of what I just said to Taryn. Not, Simon and I, as I said, are lucky. We've got the businesses behind us with huge download capacities and things like that. And yes, we could probably do it online, but some of the judges don't have the technical ability or the technical support to be able to access the material, and so therefore we get a hard copy. And the other reason why we get a hard copy is so that when we actually go out and we visit, so we've got it there to thumb through, and much more than getting our iPads out or laptops and thumbing through and where did I see that. It might sound a little bit old-fashioned, but it is much easier as far as the visits are concerned to have a hard copy. Yeah, and you'll find that when the judges in fact do come to visit you, that they frequently have this document with them as well, so that they can say, well, have you actually addressed this, have you actually addressed that? And certainly when I sit down and do the written mark, I have that available, I have the briefing workshop material available, and I actually look at that and cross-check back to those types of things.
At the site visit, I actually like to write on your entry.
Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah, so that's how I use, and then so I like to write on the entries. So essentially when I sit down and then write the debrief or the criteria that you get after the awards information, that's where I get my information from. So if I don't write anything on there, I'm visiting 3 or 4 in a day, I'm likely to miss something. So I write everything down.
Last year,
Zoe, yeah.
From the blanket box. Last year I won an award for the blanket box business, but since then I have split my business. So I now have the blanket box shop and a new business in Zoe Clifton Designs. They both, business A and B, work together. If I enter this year as the blanket box hasn't had any major achievements, whereas the Zoe Clifton Designs has. But to continue the recognition of the blanket box, should I enter under the blanket box, or should I enter under Zoe Clifton Designs as a new business, or should I do it Zoe Clifton Designs as the blanket box, or how should I?
The question is, should I enter C, all of the above, or
right.
New business? Are you still micro, or you've grown a bit as well?
Grown a little bit.
Okay. Zoe, just remembering from what you did last year, and you were one of the surprise packets last year, because certainly the judging panel knew nothing about you, and there was a bit of a wow factor about your entry and what you've done, not just in Geelong, but nationally with the books and things like that. Internationally, sorry. Correction for the tape. I would think that you would enter one entry, and that you would make it global, and you'd put the 2 business names together, and as far as you can within the word count, and just reference back to, these are my businesses, these are my achievements, and really, in quotation marks, fudge the issue for the judges about that being one business, because it's still under the one roof, etc. Yeah. So I would do it like that, and the judges would, I think, expect to do it. And certainly, if you entered the 2, we'd only give you 1 visit. That's because of time allowances and things like that. So
enter it still as the blanket box, as the main business, but then have the achievements of personal.
Correct. And this is why you've got these 500 words at the start. You would, in fact, take us through that. So you'd say, and sometimes judges, and I've just referred to what you did last year, what we do stress is please, we have new judges, you can't assume that we know what you do. So effectively, you've got to go back to square one and say, the blanket box does this. Zoe Clifton Designs does that. So Roderick Insurance Brokers, for example, may say, well, we've entered for a couple of years now, and people know what we do. Well, they don't. We have to work from square one as if we don't know what you do.
Thank you.
Gordon?
Gordon Jenkins from Davison's. This will be hopefully our first time entering this, so from my perspective, 500 words isn't a lot. So I'm one who English isn't particularly good, as you can tell from the accent. Can you do the bullet point, or does it have to be?
We encourage bullet points, Gordon.
Right, so they're long-winded.
Yeah. So the question is whether we need English prose or whether bullet points. We accept entirely the word limits. The word limits are imposed, from history. We know what it takes to get a good entry, and we have increased that from 2,000 really to 3,000, if now you've got the vision there, over the last 4 or 5 years. But importantly, we understand that dot points are the way to go, and that is the best way to go across. And in fact, it's a good way to launch into the way in which you present yourselves at the visits, that we understand that the dot points are there. Any others? Yeah, sure.
Another one, with Mola. Our business is 50, 65, 70 people, so we're in the large side. How do the judges go about looking at our business, which is an accounting corporate advisory business, to a completely different business? Maybe take Zoe's business has got exactly the same people, where some of the constraints in our business isn't in Zoe's business and vice versa. So how do you measure it up in terms of evaluating our business to Zoe's business, or do you just evaluate ours independently?
Well, there's a couple of things about that. First, every judge marks every entry. So even though each of Simon as one of your competitors and me and me as a person who has a working relationship with your firm, and you in fact do work for us, we don't disbar ourselves from writing on that, because those 11 marks are average, so that one of ours ability, when Simon marks every entry that you've got at 70 and I mark them all at 90, it does average out, okay? And we do have judges that have wildly divergent views about the same business, so that marks it out. Then, as part of the visit, judges are required immediately the entries are lodged, not as after the mark, not after the written marks or anything like that. Immediately, within 2 days of the entries being lodged and distributed to the judges, conflicts of interest must be disclosed. And so, for example, each of Simon and I, in relation to your business, would disclose that, and we are automatically disqualified from visiting you. Okay? So that cuts down the pool of judges that we have available in that sense. So then we move to the next stage. If you look at the experiences of the judging panel, we have a range of experiences. We have a range of experiences from professional services to retail, from large to small, from businesses which are intensely personal in nature to those that depend on HR, to those that depend on marketing. And so the judges bring that skill set to it. And we don't say we're infallible. We don't say that the process is foolproof. But because of the process we go through, I think we give ourselves the best shot to be able to do it. And we do follow an internationally recognised system to actually go through the process. Now, as I said, it's not foolproof, but we are very alive to that issue. And in fact, that's why I gave that explanation before in relation to how we judge a micro business. We understand the difficulties that businesses such as that have, and just as we understand that a business with 1,000 people might have, like if we go to Bowen Health, if they happen to enter with 5,000 employees, they can't say that every one of their 5,000 employees is engaged with the particular process, but they can tell us about the systems and processes that they have in place. So it is an issue which very much the judges focus on. Are we dealing with these businesses on the entry? In other words, we're not presupposing, or we heard somebody was super good or somebody was super bad, or, I had this experience with them. We try and put that out of the window. And we certainly try and, the different industry expertise that we have as judges, the different industries that enter, big and small, to try and accommodate that. It's really front of mind. Yeah, sure.
I don't mind signing for the site visit.
I'll just extend on that, is that the judges take it extremely seriously. What's happened in the past is that one of the judges has had a bad experience with a firm, and he actually declared a conflict of interest because he had that bad experience with the firm. Now, I can also stand here and say that I've seen one of my other competitors in the past, and I've marked them extremely highly. I understand from an accounting point of view what accountants and tax laws and financial planning and everything else that accountants have to deal with. So from that point of view, I'm best to know what you're going through, but saying that, I won't go out and do your site visit.
Okay. Any other questions? It's online. That part is online. Yeah. So that we'd ask you to download. Actually, Kelly would. Part of the lodging of the entry form, Kelly would say that when people do drop them off, she appreciates the ability to go through them with you and answer any questions you do have. And as judges, we also, if we think, hey, hold on, let's use you again as an example. You work with your dad and your mum. Yep. And your brother, yeah. You are a family business. Let's say that you hadn't ticked family business. We would say, hey, Marnie, do you want to enter family business type thing? We try to be proactive about that. Yeah. And we also, for example, certainly in the micro, we always check, the full-time equivalents and things like that to make sure that we're comparing businesses with like resources. And the judging panel is very proud of the fact that last year we had a micro business within our finalists. It's a great indictment on the awards process. Perhaps answering your question, Gordon, we had a micro business up against, the ultimate winner was a worldwide organisation. Any other questions? Yeah, one more.
The
Yes.
Is that happening as well?
Simon mentioned there is mentors available.
Right.
Um,
There's no time.
Look, I'm sorry. If Kelly was here, we'll make sure Kelly answers that question on the way out. I'm sure it will be on the website about the availability of mentors and for example, I know Lloyd Gosling is a mentor. I think Lily Stefanovic is a mentor as well this year.
You just need to call.
Yeah. So you just call Kelly, and that will all be organised.
We used the mentors last year. They were fantastic. The feedback was really good.
Yeah. So the comments just made were that the mentoring system has been very beneficial to a few entries. We won't mention any of the mentors to pump up their tyres too much. Anything else? Right, well, thank you. I hope that was beneficial to you, and good luck, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the judging process. Thanks very much.
Thank you.